If I could describe the Get My Life tour in one word, it would be vulnerability. Showing up for yourself is so important. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. And welcome to the Get My Life tour. I am your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and like always, I am so excited that you decided to join me on tour. If this is your first time, welcome to the Get My Life tour. This is a podcast, an experience, a tour that is all about getting through. I try to stay away from like the how-tos. I think there are a lot of how-to guides out there, but this is more so of ways to get through. So thank you so much for joining me on tour. As you know, this Get My Life tour is all about vulnerability, mindfulness, showing up for yourself, wellness, and so much more. And on the last stop of the Get My Life tour with Natasha Jolene, she shared very intimately and very openly about her Get My Life tour and her journey. And I want you to actually get a snippet of that, because if you have not tuned into that episode, I would really encourage you, if you are someone who has experienced, grief, loss, and love, right? It sounds like something that we probably all would have experienced, but in those ways as it relates to a loved one. So tune in.
If you have a spiritual relationship with God and there's something tugging at you that's saying this just can't be it, it's not. And for me, with my dad, just something keeps tugging, my dreams keep tugging at me, like this just can't be it. Like there has to be a way where he'll start talking more, he'll start verbalizing more, he'll start walking just a little bit more. And I truly believe that God can work a miracle. And so for the people who believe that, also stand firm in that.
Natasha is someone who I met about 4 years ago. And on the last stop of the tour, she talked about being a caregiver and becoming a caregiver in her 20s for her father, who is still her superhero, while balancing education, career, relationships. And, it was the first time that she spoke publicly about being a caregiver, experiencing grief, and having to continue, life as usual. But she did such an incredible job. I was extremely grateful. A number of women who tuned in were extremely, grateful for her candidness and the level of vulnerability that it took for her to just open up. So if you have not listened to that stop on the tour, I would encourage you to go back and listen to it. All week I'd been thinking about what I was going to talk about on the next stop of the tour. I have this editorial calendar, but sometimes I just like to flow, and I wasn't sure which direction I was going to go in, but I knew that it had to count. I think that every stop on the tour counts, and from the feedback that I receive, it most definitely is telling that it does count. But, on my single, when I take center stage on the single episodes of the tour, it's always important for me to give you what it is that I think you all, deserve, especially when I have a guest, right? And as I was formulating my thoughts, I really came to terms with that I am someone who struggles with imposter syndrome. Now, I've been to so many different panels and women's groups and discussions about imposter syndrome. And I was like, no, maybe not. I'm not sure. And then I was like, you know what? Yep, it's me. I actually struggle with imposter syndrome, and I really don't want to have this episode focus solely on imposter syndrome, but more so giving yourself the credit you deserve. Okay. So the title for this stop on the tour is You Did That. Give yourself the credit you deserve. So going back to imposter syndrome really quickly, it is defined as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persists despite evident success. Imposters suffer from chronic self-doubt and sense of intellectual fraudulence that override any feelings of success or external proof of their competence. Y'all, I feel like I've heard people speak about imposter syndrome time and time again. And while the content resonated, I couldn't really identify ways that I actually struggled with imposter syndrome. And I think it's because I always heard women who were far removed from my experience talk about not being good enough in the C-suite and all these other things. And I'm like, well, I'm not in the C-suite. Maybe not one day, but I need something that's really going to speak to me. And what spoke to me this week was someone's response to me giving them credit. So I am in a very transitional stage right now, and I experienced a very pivotal and exciting moment in my career last week as I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation and an interview with Sheryl Sandberg, who is the COO of Facebook and the CEO of leanin.org or foundation, as well as Option B. I was selected to have a conversation with her, and it was extremely exciting for me. It was something that I couldn't believe I've been asked to do. I was like, oh my gosh, now I write about tech and I use Facebook and X, Y, and Z, but me, little old me. And I began to thank, of course, the people who presented the opportunity to me. And I was speaking to someone and I thanked her and I was telling her, you just don't understand. And she was looking at me and she didn't say anything. She's smiling and she's like, oh, wow, okay, it's so kind of you. But in what she wasn't saying, I heard her telling me to stop thanking her. And it showed in her face. And I was not offended by that, but literally the look on her face and her silence to my gratitude checked something within me. And it really just stopped me in my tracks. I don't think there's anything wrong with being grateful or expressing your gratitude, but I think oftentimes when we give too many people credit, it becomes habitual and we take away from ourselves what we've worked hard for, what we've committed ourselves to, and our greatness, quite frankly. So in that moment, I was just like, oh my gosh, did I make a fool of myself? I was like, no, you can't make a fool of yourself for being grateful. But I honestly feel like there are moments where we are so grateful that it almost looks bad. And I don't think I had that moment, but that was put into perspective for me. And I want to make sure that I never have that moment. I think it almost looks like being a stan or like a super fan, right? And I don't think that we have to do that. So this is why I want to title this Stop on a Tour, You Did That, okay? Now, I am someone who is a believer, so I most definitely give credit to the Most High for a lot that happens in my life. But I think that it's also important to be cognizant and realistic, right, about the things that we have set out to do and accomplish. So you did that, okay? Give yourself the credit you deserve. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I've already defined imposter syndrome and shared an enlightening moment that I've had. But, I really think that it is to our own demise when we give others credit for our work, right? And I don't mean just career wise, but the work that we have done internally as, spiritual beings having a human experience. There's so much work that we have to do to be well, so much unraveling, so much healing. And I think that sometimes people are too quick to give up credit to others where it is not due. When we give others credit for our work personally or professionally, not only do they get ahead, but they're able to cash in on the investment that you made, to get where you are. I really feel like that. I mean, think about it. It's like credit, like literal credit. If you have any kind of credit card or if you've ever had a line of credit, you know that there is interest associated with the credit, right? I think a lot of people take interest in what we do and who we are. And if they speak a word over our life or they give us, something to help us to get to the next level, we're too quick to be like, oh my gosh, so I just want to shout out. I don't think we have to go throughout life, shouting everyone out and giving them credit. If you've put in the work, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, I did that, and keeping it moving. Sometimes your rate is too low. I think sometimes our interest rate, what we charge others, is too low, especially when we think about what we think we owe to others, right? Or what we give away, better yet, let's say what we give away. And I think that our rates are just too low. Like I always get on, other people about what they're charging people, and other people always get on me about what I charge people or my offerings. And I really charge you not to give away anything for free, especially not yourself. Your time, your resources, your talents, your gifts. Those are yours, right? And I'm not saying harbor those selfishly because the world is waiting for you. And I strongly believe that. But I think that it's important that as you are more mindful about not giving others too much credit, that you're also mindful of those things as well. I believe that, when you give others too much credit, they begin borrowing and benefiting from your commitments, hard work, and dedication. And that doesn't sound like the best deal to me. Have you ever been in a situation you're like, okay, I just want to give you credit because, without you, I wouldn't, and somebody takes that and runs with it and you're like, you're right. I actually deserve X, Y, and Z. You're like, wait. I was only trying to thank you, right? But it turns into something else because you gave it to them. Sometimes when giving people credit, we also give them too much power and authority for things that they are not responsible for. Ironically, as I was, thanking the woman who, advocated for me, she, like I said, had that look on her face and it put so much into perspective. Lo and behold, someone in my network tagged me in a post and I didn't see it. And it was related to imposter syndrome. And it's so interesting how we're connected to people and they see things on us that we don't necessarily know they see. That's why I always say it's important to remember that people are watching you because you never would know what it is that you're putting out and what energy. And I think that because of my attitude of gratitude, people are in the same, how do I want to say this? People recognize that about me and they're like, girl, if you just don't own it, I just have become that person because I've always aimed to be, selfless, right? And I think in being selfless, I don't give myself enough credit. Okay, so I just pulled up the actual post that she tagged me in. It is by a woman named Nidra Glover Tawab. I would love to have her on the Get My Life tour. She is extremely dope from what I can see. She is a boundaries expert and writer, okay? She teaches people how to create healthy relationships. And shout out to Ash for sending this to me. And this is the post. It says, repeat after me. I am not an imposter. Things I've accomplished are a reflection of my hard work, not luck. I accept my imperfections without confusing them with being inadequate. The life that I have is real. I am worthy of the life I created. Guilt about my accomplishments is no longer a part of my inner dialogue. Okay. And that, like I mentioned, is from Nidra Glover, Tawab. And I hope that I'm saying her name right. But that post really was confirmation that this was something that I needed to speak about. And I needed to read that. I am someone who is just like, I don't want to talk about things that are trending or just super high profile because everyone else is talking about them. I guess that's the same thing as trending, right? Okay, cool. But this is something that I realized that I am struggling with. Okay. And I don't know what it is, that you may be struggling with, but if imposter syndrome or not giving yourself enough credit is one of them, I really hope that this really outlines some things for you. You know, when I think about what this has looked like for me and the ways that I think it just looks like in general are being overtly thankful to others, right? I think at times we're so thankful to others, but don't share that same sentiment for ourselves and the one that we believe in. I don't know if you call him the creator, the most high, whatever it is that you praise and worship, okay? But I don't think we give ourselves and, our higher sense of self enough credit. We give it to other people. So that's one of the ways that I think it looks. Not being able to receive compliments without giving them back is another way that I strongly believe it feels. I most definitely am guilty of this. So I love giving other people compliments because it just energizes me. And I'm not someone who's going around just looking for something to compliment. But if I see something, I don't have a problem with sharing it with someone like, oh, wow, okay, I see you said, oh, okay, bro. All of that. Like I'm everyone's unsolicited cheerleader and hype woman. But we got to be our own hype womans, okay? Or men's, our own hype men, whatever, okay? I know everybody talks about the different, I'm not gonna get myself in trouble, okay, cool. So just be your own hype person. I don't think that we realize how inappropriate it is to always reciprocate a compliment once it is given to us. And quite frankly, it's a bad habit. And at times it's just uncalled for. I get so annoyed when I say something to someone and they feel like they have to reach for a compliment. But I can only imagine now when I think about it, how irritating or annoying it may be for someone else when they tell me something. I'm just like, okay, girl, because it is not a competition to give out compliments, especially when you are the person receiving them. You just have to just be like, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So another way I think this looks is bragging about others when we should be clapping for ourselves. It is so easy to deflect. As easy as it is to project, I think it's as easy to deflect. This just goes back to my point about being your own hype woman or man. I think we are so good at doing that for others, but we're not as good as doing that for ourselves. Now this is the one that I've had to learn the hard way. But another way that this looks is downplaying or being too hard on yourself in front of others, especially the wrong people. Okay, it's one thing to, be critical and say things that you may want to change or you could have done better or X, Y, and Z in front of those who really love and support you. But I think sometimes we put our own foot in our mouth by talking down on ourselves in front of the wrong people, it positions them to be able to make negative agreements with you, which is never a good feeling. And honestly, some people thrive for that. They think that they have the upper hand, or you've now given them ammunition against you, right? So those are some of the ways that it looks. I'm sure you probably can think of 1,000 other ways. And if you do, let me know. When I post this, please comment, talk to me, and let me know what your thoughts are. Okay, so now that I've talked about some of the ways in which I think it looks, I'm grabbing my notebook. I want to talk about some of the ways that you can counter those things, of course, because I can't just talk about this is how it looks and not present any kind of solutions, right? So I think that it's important to write down your accomplishments. I'm someone who writes down all of the things I do on a calendar. At work, I write down everything, okay? I have my own KPI where I measure and, I'm able to report what it is that I've accomplish, things that I need to, work on, whatever the case may be. But I think that it's important to write things down, especially your accomplishments, because there's so much that we do throughout the day, throughout the week, and we don't give ourselves enough credit for it. I mean, I wake up early. Sometimes I have to move my car because alternate street parking. I have to walk oatmeal, feed myself, make sure I get fresh air, right? I'm cleaning, I'm organizing, I'm planning, I'm traveling. I am producing this podcast and so much more. I'm clapping for others. You name it, I'm probably doing it, okay, if it's positive. But there's so much that I come down on myself for. And when I actually look at the things that I've done, I'm like, oh my gosh, all right. Like you're actually doing. My next point is to learn different ways to say thank you. I think that you don't always have to say thank you, especially if you don't feel comfortable saying, wow, thank you. I feel like it takes time. I think that a nod of a head, agreeing with the person with the nod of a head is appropriate. Or whatever other way you find to say thank you. Maybe it's a card later after a conversation you've had with someone. But I think that helps you to not be so thankful at times or in the moment, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh my God. Some people can thank you to death. And I'm just like, all right. And I think some people's response when it's thank you is a little empty. And that's why I think it's important to find other ways to say thank you. I hope that makes sense, because it makes a lot of sense to me. You let me know if it does or if it doesn't, okay? So, of course, with learning different ways to say thank you, I think it's also important to practice receiving compliments without having to pay one forward. Okay, I know some people just do not do well in receiving compliments. It makes them shy, it embarrasses them, they're above that and they don't want to hear it, whatever the case may be. Even if that is the case for you, I think that you should practice receiving compliments. Somebody is going to give you a compliment. And honestly, I've seen okay, I'm not going to stutter that means I'm sorry, y'all. I've received people not knowing how to receive a compliment at times can be a deal breaker. I have seen people in different spaces not know how to receive a compliment, and it has made things extremely awkward. And it comes off as very standoffish or disconnected to self, of course, right? But to whoever it is that you're speaking with. Now, I know not everyone who gives you a compliment you're in a relationship with or know to any degree, but you never know how you not knowing how to receive in general comes off to someone else. And I feel like if you are in a setting where you are doing business or networking, especially, being awkward in that regard can be very off-putting to people. So I think it's really important to learn how to receive just in general, but of course, learn how to receive compliments about you and your work. I'm not talking about just someone saying, oh, girl, I like your hair or them earrings are nice. Okay, I see your outfit, you popping. No, it's like, wow, you did a really good job when you did X, Y, and Z. Oh, wow, the way you handled that. You can't always just shy away from a compliment, okay? So, my next point is do not pay attention to people who aren't as ambitious, that always have something to say. Okay? There are so many people. Everyone has an opinion, but there legit will be people who are just like not on your level who want to chime in. And I think a lot of us have allowed people to negatively impact us when they are that way. And it plays a role in how we show up. You know what? You just got to you got to keep it moving. Everyone has something to say. A lot of people will question your ambition and why you do things and the way that you do things, but you have to keep it moving. Okay. And also be mindful of those who cannot stand the brightness of your light. People are always trying to find a way to dim your light. And when they're able to do that, of course you don't shine, right? But I think that over time, it makes you question how brightly you shine. And you're not able to see yourself the same way. And giving yourself credit just becomes secondary. You know, we got to clap for ourselves. We have to put ourselves on the way that we hope that someone would if they would see us, right? I think that giving yourself credit is another way of seeing yourself. If you've done the work, if you are committed to whatever your life process is, it is important to give yourself credit. If you aren't measuring what you are doing in your everyday life, then it's hard for you to be like, look, this is who I am. This is what I've done. It's hard to give yourself credit. As someone who is a recovering perfectionist and, you know, my toughest critic, I think it's important to note when things are going right and to be kind to yourself, right? I think that's a huge part of giving yourself credit is being kind to yourself. The same ways that we express our gratitude for others is the same way that we should express gratitude for ourselves, getting through every day, getting through hard times, making it count. And I think that's really what sums up giving yourself credit is, you know, I found this quote online and it is really interesting. It's unknown, but this person wrote, always concentrate on how far you've come rather than how far you have left to go. I really like this quote because when I think about the Get My Life tour and us being on tour, right, it is a journey. And if we're always nitpicking on ourselves or like, oh, on this stop or on that stop, okay, you know, things happen behind the scenes that no one gets to know of or see when we arrive center stage, right? So in knowing that, it's so important how we show up, but our attitude has to reflect that. And it also has to reflect our journey, right? If you made it through some things, it is okay to celebrate those things. And because everyone cannot see, you know, how far you've come and you're still on your journey, it's important to not carry the attitude of someone who has journeying left to do. I really hope that, you know, makes sense to you, but I'm going to read the quote again because I like it so much. Always concentrate on how far you've come rather than how far you have left to go. Look, that is what the Get My Life tour is all about. Getting our lives. And this stop on the tour is about giving yourself some credit, okay? Look, you gotta be about you. At the end of the day, like, you have to be about yourself. You have to be serious. Have fun, of course, but you have to be kind. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself some credit, okay? Look, I know I'm yelling in the microphone. I'm not trying to preach, but I think that somebody really needs to hear this. That's why I'm like getting closer to the microphone, because you're not giving yourself enough credit. And every day that you wake up is a new opportunity. And if all you are focusing on is what you have not done, what you aren't, or where you are not, then you're not giving yourself enough credit. Now, I understand that the Most High is the one who gives you the breath in your body, but every day you have to make a conscious decision about how you are going to show up. I'm hitting the microphone, sorry y'all. But you have to make a conscious decision about how you are going to show up and how you are going to get through. And one of the ways we get through is by acknowledging how far we've come and by giving ourselves credit. We give glory, right? But I believe some of that glory is passed down through grace back to us. Okay, so I know I've said a lot, and if this is your first time tuning in, typically when I'm center stage by myself, I do not like to have the floor for very long because I understand that our attention spans are not as long when it's just one person talking. The data shows that to be true, and I like to respect the data, okay? But we also have a mic drop moment, and the mic drop moment is an opportunity for the person taking center stage to literally have a coming to America moment where they just hit the 1-2 arms out, sexual chocolate y'all, and exit stage left, right? So I've been thinking about my mic drop moment for quite some time, and I always wanted to count. You know, you just can't just drop the mic and not say anything like pretty profound. So here's my mic drop moment. It is okay to bow during a standing ovation. I feel like it is extremely key to say that on this stop of the tour because so many of us don't live in the moment, or we freeze when all of the attention is on us, especially after we've accomplished something that we probably didn't think we could do, or we didn't think we could really accomplish even though we set out to do that thing. And I don't think enough of us actually bow. Like, bowing feels so awkward. I have been center stage after poetry slams and, performances and things of that nature. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, bowing is so much. Why would I bow? Oh my goodness. It makes no sense to bow. It's so pretentious. Like, did I really, all those thoughts, right? But it is okay to bow during a standing ovation. You have those moments when you're center stage and you're looking at everyone and they're looking back at you in awe. It is okay to bow, live in the moment, take it in, and give yourself credit as you bow. Bow gracefully. Bow when it is your time. When it is your turn to bow, take a bow. Look, that is all I have for you on this stop of the tour. I hope that you got something. I hope that you continue to tune in, join the Get My Life Tour community by logging in on Facebook and joining the Get My Life Tour backstage, where we commune and really get those pep talks we need before we take center stage. Of course, follow the Get My Life Tour on Twitter, Instagram at the Get My Life Tour, with the exception of Twitter being at Get My Life Tour because the Get My Life Tour was too long. But yes, connect with me there. Of course, I am Lydia T. Blanco on all platforms. Let me know what you think about this stop on the tour. Let me know some things that you should really be giving yourself credit for that you have not. Let's be accountability partners as we journey, as we are on tour. And I promise you, I'm not going to hit the microphone as much the next time, but I talk with my hands and I'm really close. So until then,